Hi, it's Cassie. How are you? So tonight is my first of hopefully many product showcase. I'm super excited. So I don't normally show my face in the camera, but I just want to say thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoy this. If you have any questions or um, along the way, or if you're watching this pre-recorded, then please let me know. I'll keep an eye on things and answer them when I can. If you have ideas for other um, ideas, for the other product showcase or other things that you want to learn about, a technique or a product that you maybe have in your stash that you haven't used much because maybe you don't know how to use it or what to do with it, I would love to show you how to use it and different ideas that I have to do with it. And then maybe that will help, spark your imagination and come up with even more things, and then we can share back and forth, and that's how the creative process really works and really flourishes when we can all share ideas together. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm sorry I keep looking down. I want you to see my project and I want to get going. So the first sorry, I'm getting used to this. I'm on my phone and it's shaky, and I'm sorry. And things are going to get better, but I'm kind of new to this part. So tonight's product showcase is going to be Color Burst, okay? We've used these. I'm sure you've used them before. There's tons of colors and there's tons of beautiful um palettes, but I just chose a few colors just for tonight, and I'm going to show you how I know how to use it and some different things, and maybe a fun new technique that you didn't know about, and hopefully you learn something and maybe have some fun. And if you want to craft with me at the same time, that would be really awesome. I would love to see what you create. And so let's just get started. I'm going to switch my face around here so you can see the projects instead. It's going to be shaky for 1 second while I get oriented here. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, I think we are good. I think I'm also going to get a different stand for this whole thing, but for now this is working, and I think that everything is good in focus. Okay, so this is going to be the end product that we make tonight. This is going to be the card, and I use Color Burst for the background. So this is my fun little secret technique that I kind of accidentally happened upon one time a couple of years ago, actually, and I'm sure other people out there have done it, but I've never seen it anywhere. So I call it black magic, and it's really fun, and I'm excited to get started. So before we get to the project though, I'm just going to show you some samples I made and sort of play with this stuff live, and really just get into using it and using it in different ways. And I'm going to try to keep this this live fairly short. Sorry, I want to get the live going on my other device so I can see if any questions come up. Okay, so here we go. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for joining me for oh yeah, I definitely need to turn them. 1 second. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, had to mute the other line. That would be super annoying, right? Okay, here we go. So we've got Color Burst here. So Color Burst is just a powdered watercolor pigment, right? And so a lot of other, there are several companies that sell similar products. They often have different types of packaging, and there's pros and cons, I think, to each type of packaging. These are made by Ken Oliver. And like I said, he's got, I don't know how many colors. He has a lot of colors. This is the most recent, one of the more recent Galaxy lines. I think it came out last spring or summer, but it's really beautiful, and it comes with a liquid one too. So I thought that would be fun to show just some variation that he has in some of the colors. And there's some really pretty colors to use in here that I just love. So so just a quick overview. I'm going to move these out of the way and just tell you sort of how I feel about the pros and cons of the packaging. We'll start with that. So his products are in these bottles, and they have these lids on them that just lift off, and then you just have a thin nozzle that you then can squeeze out some color, okay? And you get a little bit of pigment there. The reason I really like this packaging is because it's easy to control how much comes out, and you can sort of sprinkle it like where you want it to go, and you have a little bit more control that way. The thing that I don't really like about it is that I'm not going to know when I get down to the bottom, right? And how am I going to get all of that pigment out? I like to use every last drop. So I'm not sure how I would get there. I can't take this lid off, if you see. So yeah, that seems to be a problem. Maybe I could cut that off at some point. I don't know. But I imagine these are going to last a really long time. They feel pretty full, so I don't know that that would be an issue. But that's just one of the drawbacks I would see of having a bottle like this. Otherwise, I really love the bottle. The other way that I've seen these products made is in a pot. So let's see. So here I have on the side, I have Lindy's Magicals, which these are amazing product, and this will be another product showcase at some point. But these are in a pot, right? And so you twist off the lid, and then you get the pigment out this way. And you can use a paintbrush, you can use a little scooper, whatever. You can see the color really well, although it doesn't always represent what's going to happen when you put water in it. But you can also get to all of the powder much easier. So those would be the pros and cons. But you know, this could dump easier too, and you could have a mess. So there's pros and cons for the packaging. For the actual product, these colors are fantastic. They're very highly pigmented. They're very you don't need a lot. This would paint a very large surface, just that tiny little bit of powder. So it's really, really great powder. Okay, so on to different techniques and uses for it. So the most common way that people use it is on watercolor paper. It's a watercolor pigment. That makes sense. It's water-based. It was, I think in the beginning, made to use for watercolor painting. So you just put a little spot out like this, and you get a brush. Oh, I thought I had a little brush ready to go. Here, this one will do. Okay, so then you get a brush and you get it wet a little bit, and then you just pick up some of that pigment and you brush it on. And see, look at that. This color is called Solar Flare. Super gorgeous. This is from the Galaxy line. But look at that. It's really beautiful color. Very highly pigmented, saturated. Very nice. Okay, you can also get it wet on the mat. If you have like a non-stick mat like this, or a Teflon mat, or something like that, you can use it in this fashion. You can also spritz your water even once you have the pigment on the paper to let it move around organically. That looks amazing, and especially if you're mixing a couple of colors together. So let's get the orange out here. Keep these guys in the same family. So this color is called Jupiter, and we're just going to give it a spritz there, just a little bit to activate it. And then you know, so I can start to mix these colors in here. Okay, and then put this on here like this, right? And then we can always spritz that and let them sort of organically blend together too, and have a nice gradient. So that's a really common standard way of using color bursts. So then if you have some pigment left on your mat and you're cleaning up or you're moving on, I don't like to waste color ever. So I will tend to get a scrap piece of paper or art journal or whatever you want to use, and I would pick up as much of that extra pigment as you can, and then use it for later, you know, so this could be the start of a background for later on. So so that's one way that you can use the color burst powders. Okay, the next way then is still with a watercolor paper. You can, let's go with green and blue this time. These are quite lovely. We'll go with some cool colors. So you can put this powder directly onto a dry piece of watercolor paper. So there's the green, it's called Terrestrial, and then this one's called Night Sky. Ooh, that's a lot. That's a very lot. It's going to be super dark, but that's okay. And then watch this. This is like a magical thing that happens here, and I'm sure we've all done this with our color bursts, right? This is one fun way to use it. You really get to see all the different color variations that are in that one powder even when you do this. technique. So that's pretty fun. And I love the way that it organically moves around. It's really quite beautiful. And I would probably just let it dry this way. And then, you know, you can use these as backgrounds. You can use them and put a die on top of it and then cut out a shape. And so then it has that fun swirls and patterns of color. And then, you know, within that shape of the die, that's really fun to do. And it's kind of, you know, kind of unexpected, and you don't always know what you're going to get. And it ends up being really pretty gorgeous. So look at how deep that blue is. Really pretty. Let me give that green another hit. There we go. And you can see you really don't need a lot of pigment. That's one of the things I do really love about the color bursts, is that they're very highly pigmented. These bottles of powder could last you a very, very long time, even if you use them every day. So that is another way you can do it. You could also, I'm going to quickly dry this just for a moment, because I want to use the other side of it to show you one other technique that you can do with watercolor paper. And these are just really basic, you know, quick, fun, easy ways to use the color burst with watercolor paper specifically. Now, what would you do if you didn't have watercolor paper? You could still do these techniques. You definitely could with regular paper, but what would you want to do first? Does anyone know what you would need to do to the paper before you did this to make sure you had this outcome, or something at least similar to this outcome? Does anybody know? I'm going to give it just a second before I tell you the answer, just in case. I'm going to wipe down my surface here because I want to flip this over and do something else, and I don't want to contaminate that other side because it's pretty and we could use it down the road somewhere. I like to save all my backgrounds. You never know what you're going to want to use them for. You can use them in art journaling. You can, like I said, die cut with them. I die cut with them a lot, and it's so fun. And it's just, I love the little bit of unexpected, you know, happy sort of unexpected outcome that you get with it. So, okay, that's pretty good. Good enough. Okay. So the other thing you can do if you don't have watercolor paper, but you want to get a similar result, and you just have plain white paper, we're going to do it in a minute. You can put white or clear gesso, or black gesso. Gesso will always prime your surface and get it ready so that what gesso is, excuse me, is a it's basically a primer, and it has acrylic paint in it, but some people think, oh, I'll just use white acrylic paint and that can be my gesso. No, because white acrylic paint has a different bonding agent in it. Gesso has a little bit of tooth in it, so it primes your surface. It's not going to be glossy. It's going to accept pigment on top of it, but it's going to let it sit on top a little longer so that it can play, right? And it can move around your surface and not just soak right into the paper and the fibers right away. So that's why you would use gesso if you didn't have watercolor paper for something like this. Okay, so I've flipped this over. We're just going to use this other side really quick, and I'm going to do purple. I just want to show you purple because it's really gorgeous. Okay, so this is dry. Okay, I'm going to spritz with my water bottle first. Okay, get it pretty wet. And then I'm going to come in with some of the powder. And look at it. It blooms. It's like fireworks. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? So that gives you a totally different look though, right? Than it did when we put the powder down first and then got it wet. Because of the way the water and the powder are reacting together. Now I need to show you up close. This is, oh, let me get in focus here. Sorry. I think that's as close as I can get, but you can still see. Look at the veining. This is one of my favorite techniques to get this sort of veining look. It's so beautiful. And so it's just amazing. And oh, and look at this purple. Like, this is one of my favorite colors of color burst. It's so pretty. But so this is achieved by not putting very much water on it. Okay. I just put a little bit of water. So there we go. So that is the final way, common way that you can use watercolor paper with color burst. Okay. So this is water after, this is water before. You see the big difference? Pretty cool. Okay, we're going to move on. I'm going to put these lovely samples away. All right, so now I said, what do you do if you don't have watercolor paper, but you still want to have fun with color bursts and do some stuff? You can use regular paper, and that's what we're going to do next. Okay, I'm going to show you some samples I did with white and clear, because the effect is the same either way. Okay, and then we will make the card doing it the third way. Okay, so let's see. First, I want to show you. Hold on, I'm so sorry. Okay, so this one was done with clear, and this one was done with white. So let me put these out of the way really quick. Okay, so first I put clear. This is regular paper. There it is. I wrote clear. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so this is clear embossing powder, just on plain white cardstock. It feels thick, so it's got to be the Nina Solar White, the thick one. I need a little sip of tea. Here's my tea in my Alice in Wonderland cup. I have tiniest scratchy throat, so I'm drinking tea. Okay, so I put clear gesso on, and then I put the color over it, and then I did some modeling paste over it just to play around with some patterns and stuff. So here you can see we get some blending of color. We get this similar effect. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar effect because we gessoed and primed our surface. Okay, so then the next one would be white. So here, if I get this one back, you'll see the difference. The main difference is that, now these are both purple, and the main difference is this is a little bit darker. Okay, so that's what happens there. And then you see, oh, I forgot to show you. I'm going to wait and let it dry a little bit longer. This was just regular watercolor paper. And I went over afterwards. I'm going to do it again really quick on these two guys so you can see. I went over and put some water in my hand and just flicked it on. Okay, we're going to flick it on. There we go. And we're going to let it sit for a minute. Now I did these a couple of days ago even, but it should still react. Color burst reacts with water anytime it comes in contact. So, oh, sorry, Robin, I just saw your comment. Did you just leave it for gesso? Oh yeah, okay. So were you answering the question about the what to use? You're right, it is gesso. Okay, so let me get a paper towel. One second. Okay, so now we let this water sit on here for a minute, and when I lift it, you'll see water droplets. So it's lifting the color off, and it creates this really fun sort of distressed look because it's just taking the color off from the spots where we flicked the water. So that's a really fun, easy, quick technique that you can do with color bursts and with lots of different water-based products. But you do need to make sure you do need to play a little bit first, because not all water-based products will react this way once they're dry and they've sat around for a couple days. Some, once they dry, they're set and they are what they are, and there's no going back and changing it. Some of them will react with water forever. So it varies on the product, and you just need to play or ask questions to find out for sure. So here we can do it to this one. This one was done on watercolor paper. So what I did here was I used this white pearl modeling paste from the Crafter's Workshop. Okay, and it looks like this, just a white shimmery kind of paste. Okay, very cool. And I put that through a stencil. All right, and then I let it dry. I did a very thin layer, so it just had a little bit of raised effect. And then I let it dry, and then I went over with the color burst. Excuse me. And let's tap this so we can see all those awesome splatters. Very cool. So you can use the modeling paste as a resist, and then you can put the color over it and then wipe it, and it's not going to accept or keep the color in those spaces. So that's a really fun way to get a resist look. So that's another technique that you can do. Okay, so then the final technique, oh, and then this one I just did, here, that's not that one. I did, from the Crafters Workshop, they have a copper, and so I was just playing around with different stencils. So this is modeling paste. It's textured. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of thick there. And so I put the purple in the background, and then I put this over top of it just to make a fun, interesting background. So again, you could still die cut out of this, right? It's a little thicker now, but it would still work. Okay, so here is what we're going to do to make our card. So this is white paper with black gesso, and then we get color on top. And I'm not going to tell you yet because I just want to show you so you can see how fun and cool this is. I call it Black Magic because I don't know, that's what I named it when I discovered it. Like I said, I'm sure that somebody else has done this 100 other times, but I've never seen anyone do it, and I discovered it a couple of years ago. I just kind of accidentally happened, and so I'm very excited to show you this tonight. So we're gonna make this card, and I did this technique on here to create this fun background for this awesome chick. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, so I have all of the pieces cut out. I did actually plan ahead a little bit. Look at, I even fussy cut the girl, so she was ready to go, so you didn't have to sit and watch me cut paper. Isn't that nice? Okay, so we're gonna get the background that we need for now ready to go. I'm gonna put a piece of paper under it because I don't want to dirty my mat because I'm gonna be lazy. Okay, so here we go. Is this fun? Are you having a good time? Have you learned anything new? Let me know if you've learned anything new. Or if you have a question like, hey, what would happen if you did this or that or whatever? I'm willing to try it right here, right now. We can learn together if I don't know the answer, or even if I do, I can still show you. I hope this sore throat goes away quickly. Okay, so I've just got black gesso here. This is from Finnaver. Heavy gesso, black, regular. Okay, and I'm going to cover the whole thing, and then we're going to need to let it dry. If you haven't really used gesso or don't know much about it, I can give you like the high level right now. I will have a product showcase for basic mixed media tools and supplies. That's really pretty important to me because I live in the mixed media world and I love it so much, and I'm very, very passionate about it. But when I was just starting out, I was very overwhelmed because there's so much out there, right? And there's so many options and possibilities, things to do, and just products to use. And it's like, okay, where do I start? What do I do? How do I even get started with this? And what kind of products do I need? So I'm definitely going to have a one of my weekly videos will be on that for sure, and that'll be pretty soon because I think that will help people that are just beginning in mixed media to understand, or maybe even you haven't started and you're like, ooh, nope, that's way too much for me, I could never do that, or it's too overwhelming. I would like to help you get past that because it's so much fun, so much fun. And I would say if you are even thinking about it or have any inkling to do anything in the mixed media space, ask me questions. I would love to help you. I'd love to answer questions. I'd love to show you products that you can use that are friendly and, just easy to get started. Yeah, please. I love doing stuff like that. And I love teaching, and I love sharing, and I love learning from everyone too. I learn so much all the time. So there we go. We've got black gesso, nice and easy, all over the background. Okay. I want it to be pretty uniform and plain. Sometimes I'll put gesso on kind of chunky and leave, brush strokes because I want it to have a little bit of that texture, but today I just want it to be nice and smooth and plain. And like I said, gesso dries pretty quickly. I'm just helping it along a little bit. So, right now I'm using a Ranger Heat It craft tool. I like to use this tool for when I'm working with mixed media. It's not great for embossing, okay? If you are going to be doing a thermal embossing, like with embossing powder and Versamark and all that, then I would highly recommend a Wagner tool, okay? This is, there's different models, but this is, I think, is a pretty standard one, and it gives you really focused heat, and it doesn't blow, you know, it just heats really hot and it melts the embossing powder quickly. So, but the Wagner brand is a really good brand. So that's what I would, so I always have both of these right next to me because I'm either, you know, heating some powder or some gesso up or something, or I'm embossing. And so I'll use one or the other depending on what I'm doing. Okay, so now we're dry, okay? So now, the next step is going to be to put some pigment on here, okay? So we are going to pick, I'm going to stay with the same colors I did for this card. So if you see here in the middle, I did yellow, then I did orange, then I did purple, and I sort of blended them together. And we're not really going to be able to see it that well, and you'll find out here real quick. But we're going to do one color at a time, okay? And I'm just doing the dry powder so I can see where it's going initially and how much powder there is. And I want a lot because I want this color to really show through, okay? So we're gonna do this first, and I'm gonna get one more drink. Okay, here we go. Now I'm gonna spritz it with water, okay? Just lightly spritz. I don't want it to go everywhere. I just want it to kind of stay in the middle. All right, and then I'm going to use a paintbrush, a new one. Let's see. Do I want this one? This will work. I just want something fat and kind of juicy that I can use to move this pigment around. Okay, but I want it to stay in the middle. Definitely want it to stay in the middle. And like I said, you can't really see it that well, right? But we will in the end. We will in the end. Okay. So there's the yellow. Okay, then we're going to come in with the orange, which, I'm sorry, it's called Jupiter. It's not orange. And the yellow is what? Solar Flare. So there we go. Okay, so oops, that's a lot of orange. Okay. All right. I want to make sure and leave a good amount of space for purple. So I'm trying not to go over too far. So I just want to put the water, as best I can at least, where I want the orange to be, right? Okay, I don't want it to go over too far. And again, this isn't perfect, right? Because we can't really even see that well what we're doing. We're just sort of eyeballing it, okay? Getting a feel and a general sense for it. And then, yeah, it's a lot of orange. That's okay. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be nice and vibrant. Okay, then I'm gonna spray the middle again because I want that yellow and orange to sort of start blending together a little bit. So now I don't want this purple to interact much with the yellow and orange because it will make mud, right? Because purple and yellow are complementary on the color wheel. So what does that mean? That means that if they blend while they're wet, they will make mud. Any complementary colors. We know all the complementary colors. So they are blue and orange, purple and yellow, and red and green. So if you ever are doing something like this and you're like, which colors can I mix together and which ones can't I mix together? The general rule of thumb is warm can mix with warm and cool can mix with cool, right? So warm colors are red, yellow, orange, like that, and variations of that. And cool colors are blue, purple, green, okay? And then there's neutrals, and there's, you know, purple can sometimes be considered warm if it's got red in it, and there's, you know, there's other rules around that, but in general, that's the way that it goes usually. Okay, so so far we've got two warm colors, so they have no problem blending together, right? We can mix those all day long and we'll get beautiful hues of those two colors. All right, but when we introduce this purple, if I left this all wet and I just threw purple on here, we would get brown. because it is the complementary color. Okay, so we're good. It's mostly dry. Now I'm going to add the purple. Where'd you go? And this is called Deep Space. Okay. So these are going to go right on the ends. Now remember that this pigment does reactivate with water, right? So they are going to blend a little bit on the ends, but it's okay, right? So they didn't blend too much. You see how the orange got a little darker and the purple got a little bit muddier. Just a little bit, but not much. Because we dried this first, and it's not super saturated with water and really blending, it's going to be okay. All right. So I'm going to do the best I can to keep the water on the edge here. Okay. And like I said, it's going to blend a little bit. It's totally okay. Excuse me. Okay. So now I'm just going to move this around so that it looks more watercolor-ish. And I am going to blend it into that orange a little bit, and that's okay because it's really just the purple that is, ooh, look at, that's what it's going to look like. I'm so excited. I am in love with purple. So here we go. Okay. So we're just going to let that go. So now I am, because I really want it, I don't want it to be like orange purple. You know, I want them to kind of flow into each other. I am just going to give it the tiniest spritz next to the purple, okay? Just so they can kind of start dating a little bit. I don't want them to be married. I just want them to date. Okay. I know that was a really stupid analogy, but it makes sense, right? Okay. All right. So we're going to dry this. And then I'm actually going to go back and we'll show you, I'm going to show you the resist technique because, oh, let me think about that for a second. I should have put, okay, we're going to let this dry for just a second the way it is, and I'm going to come back and finish drying it. But I do actually want to show you the resist because we're going to have to wait a minute for that. Once we put the modeling paste on it, we're going to have to let it go again. So I'm going to use this white pearl. No, this is not what I used. Oh no. I used Creative Medium Shimmer Gel. This is from Imagine, and it is amazing. And if you can't really see on video that well, but this has just the tiniest bit of shimmer to it, and it's really gorgeous. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna just put a little bit on here and keep it nice and thin, okay, so that we can so that I can show you how to do this resist while this guy's drying. Okay, so just a tiny bit. I don't want a lot. Okay, so we're just putting it through stencil. So if you've never done this before, this is a creative medium. This is a gel. So it's going to dry. So gels will resist and pastes will absorb in general. Okay, so we just want a really thin layer. Okay, that's good. We're going to put this guy away. So this is Creative Medium by Imagine. And it's really kind of buttery and light and wonderful to use. Okay, so now we've got this. We're going to sit that aside to let it dry while we finish drying this guy. And then by the time we are ready to let that dry fully, we'll be able to go back and do some resist fun on that and show you a couple other techniques while this guy's drying. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. A little bit of a detour. So now let's finish drying this one. So does anybody have any questions or comments or anything that like I haven't covered or doesn't make sense, or something that is on your mind that you'd like me to talk about? Just let me know. Okay. Come on. It's really got to be bone dry for this next step. It sure is taking a while. I'm going to sop up some of this extra just so it dries. Look at, ooh, that's going to be pretty. I hate taking the purple away, but darn, we got to dry this. Okay. Here we go. There we go. We're almost there. Okay. So now you look at this, you're like, that doesn't look like much. I mean, you can kind of see that there's something going on, but really not much, right? Okay, here's the fun part. Almost. It's the beginning of the fun part. So now I have this other stencil, and it looks like it's the Crafters Workshop number 361. Can you see that? Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of it. It does say the Crafters Workshop on there, but it's just all these really cool dots. So let me see. I did it that way. I want to do it this way. Okay. I'm just making sure I got this right. Okay, so I'm just going to lay it on top. And for this one, I want the color to absorb. Remember a minute ago I said gel repels, paste absorbs in general. So I want this paste to absorb. So we are going to use paste instead of gel. Okay, here we go. So this is, I'm sorry, this is Golden from the company Golden, and it's just light modeling paste. And if you've ever used modeling paste, the regular stuff is very heavy. It's wonderful and it works great, but it is very heavy. This is a lot lighter. It's almost like it's whipped, you know, and it's just nice and light and airy, and it works wonderfully. It dries quickly because it's so light. I think they just whip it more or something. I'm not sure. But it's really nice. It's called light modeling paste or molding paste, whatever. Okay, so now I am going to cover the whole thing. And I think actually I'm going to take this off of here because that's kind of screwing me up a little bit. I want this to lay flat. There we go. That's better. Okay. And once I get started, the paste will kind of hold it in place. I don't probably need this much. I just wanted to have enough on my palette knife here. Okay, so you see that color's already coming through, and I don't want that to happen. I just want it to sit underneath for now. So I'm covering this whole background, which I don't normally do that even with, shoot, here we go. With stencils when I'm working on mixed media pieces. I tend to just pick random spots here and there, but I really love the way that this looks with the whole background. So I also don't want it to be very thick, okay, because we do want this to dry quickly so we can move on, and it doesn't need to be thick. We just need a nice thin layer. And actually, yeah, that's okay. All right. Okay. Look at, you can already see what's going to be happening. This is so exciting. Okay. So now we're going to lift. Ooh, pretty. Look at, this is still completely wet. So this is my fault where it seeped through just because I wasn't super careful with holding my stencil down, but you can see where it was that it's nice and crisp. So if you're careful, it'll be nice and crisp, but I don't mind. I really don't mind that. Okay, so here is our background. We need to let it dry, but you can already see it lifting that color that we placed on top of the black that you can't see otherwise, right? But now you're going to be able to see it through this modeling paste. That's why I call it black magic. I don't know. I think it's really fun and cool, and you can get unexpected results, and yeah, it's just really super fun to play with. So we're going to set that aside for a minute. I'm going to do a quick cleanup here so that we can move on. I should have brought a lozenge with me. Okay. Clean up. Here we go. And I usually reuse this paste too. I will take it and put it in an art journal page when I'm cleaning off my stencil. So real quick, I'm actually just going to show you that because why not? This is what I would do if I was just playing all on my own. So I'm going to put this lid back on. Okay. And then I've got this big Dina Wakley. This is the Big Mama one. I've done a few pages here and there, but mostly it's just work in progress. It's not, there's nothing really exciting or fun going on in here. I'm just looking for a blank-ish page. Okay, so I find out somewhere I want to put it, and I set my stencil down that's dirty, right? And the palette knife, oops, that I was using, and then there's not really much on here because I got most of it off, but I would just scrape it onto my journal, okay, and get as much off as I can, and scrape the the palette knife, and then I take a baby wipe, just a regular old baby wipe, and I clean it. I wipe it down. So this is going to get any of the excess modeling paste or residue left in the cracks, right? And it's going to put it down on your page, okay, and get it off of your stencil, because if you, especially if you have really intricate, fine stencils, it will dry in those cracks, and then your stencil will be ruined. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting any modeling paste off. So see, this didn't have much on it, so you're not going to see a whole lot here. But yeah, there's really not much, but there's a little bit there. You can see on some other pages, like I have some here. I stamp off on pages. Anyway, so that's what I do. And generally there's more paste or color or whatever that will transfer onto there. Okay, clean my mat real quick. We are gonna go back to that resist and give that a go for a minute. Need a new paper towel. All right, guess that'll do. Okay, just want to have nice clean surface here for you. Okay, so I'm not used to keeping this very clean, so this is new for me. All right, so this is a little bit wet still. I'm going to zap it just for a minute. It should dry fairly quickly though, because we just did a really thin layer. Oh, one thing, while this is drying a little bit, I can show you. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the difference, but let me first get the products so I can show you what they look like. So half of this was done with this white pearl modeling paste, which is on this side with the more purple, and then the light modeling paste I did on the other side. So I want you to see the finishes and the way that they are a little bit different. Okay, so this one you can see is very matte, right? And very soft kind of focus finish. And of course I moved a little bit there, so don't mind that, but just look at the sort of the color is more, slightly more muted. Soft finish. This is a little bit more, has a different luster to it, right? It's a little bit more shiny and shimmery. And that's just because of the two different pastes. So there we go. Okay, so now let's see. Are we dry? So close, so close. Let me do this one spot right here. Excuse me. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna be good. Let's let it cool for a second. Look at, so here is, this is the creative medium by Imagine. Remember this stuff? Here, let me stand up here so you can see. Yeah, so this is the one with the shimmer, and I'm not sure if you can see the shimmer. You can a little bit. You see that? It's just super subtle, but it's really gorgeous. Like if, yeah, oh, if you were doing, I don't know, anything that you want shimmer. I always think of snow just because it has that like glisten to it that's not overpowering, you know? Okay, so I think we're good here. It's nice and dry. So let's pick a fun color. Let's see. Let's do blue. Blue is so beautiful. It's striking. It's just really gorgeous. Okay, that's a lot of blue. I'm just going to do this dry technique. Put it on first and then spritz with water. Ooh, it looks purple, doesn't it? Wow. That is so gorgeous. Okay, it's got a lot of water on it. So now I'm going to, oh, because I didn't gesso this. Oh, so there we go. Okay, so here's the difference. So you think, oh, it didn't resist. It did. It did resist. But you see how in the middle there's just those white dots? It soaked under the paper. You see? So this one, it did not soak under the paper. This one it did. So I'm glad this happened because now we can see the difference. And this is watercolor paper and this is regular paper. Okay, if we had gessoed this and then put this on top and then put this